And now Michelle's going to tell us about the time when God's presence became real to her, when she became certain that God's presence was with her and in her and for her.
I believe that Jesus' presence through the Holy Spirit is constant. It is my mind that most often, simply through being preoccupied with daily living, is focused on other things and is not fully open to feeling His presence in every moment. The experience I'm sharing with you today is, I believe, just a glimpse of the majesty of the Holy Spirit. The background story to my experience is that a few months before my mom died this past September, I bought a dog. Even though I was contemplating getting a dog at some point in the future, the decision that weekend was quite spur of the moment, and literally from looking up an ad to calling the family to walking out the door was a matter of a few hours, and I was not prepared with any provisions for taking care of a dog. Looking back, I believe God was guiding me, preparing me, and providing for me a healthy way of dealing with the grief of losing my mom. On our early morning walks, which take us across a few neighboring farmers' fields, I sometimes stop to look at the stars. One morning I had a different experience as I gazed at the stars. It was a moment in time where time has no meaning. It was a moment in time where I had no worries about the future or the past, no emotions, feelings, or judgments. It was a moment in time where for me the world was standing still. In the stillness of my own mind and heart, I felt the peace, love, acceptance, comfort, openness, gentleness, and amazement of the Holy Spirit. I felt I was filled and one with the Holy Spirit. I know that Jesus is always by my side, but I'm not always receptive or attentive, and I lose my way in the world in the distraction and hectic rush of daily life. I use my personal experience as a grounding and a calm spot when I need calm. The Holy Spirit speaks to each one of us in a way meaningful to each individual. Having a special time in the morning with my dog is meaningful to me, but to know that this is where Jesus wrapped me in His arms and said, "Everything is okay," is a strength I can continue to draw on whenever I need it. God bless you and keep you safe.
I got to sit and have a chat over Zoom with Shirley, and she tells a story. Does she ever? She tells a good story, a recent story in her life that has a happy ending for her and for us as a church. Listen to Shirley.
Well, I belong to one of the small groups at Highland Church, and the group meets twice a month in my apartment, except in these virus days we meet by Zoom. George and Chris Joyce are also members of the group, and several years ago George was acting in a play, and I wanted to see the play. But it was in a theater up in Waterloo, which is not accessible to me in the front door. However, there was a back door off the lane that I could go in. And another couple in the group, Brian and Deb Watson, came and took me, and we went in the back door, and I was right at the stage level, and I was seated in the front row with my knees almost against the stage. We were very early. The ushers weren't busy, and one of them came over and sat down beside me. And then she wanted to know about my rather unusual entry into the theater while I was there so early. And I said, I came because I know one of the actors, George. She said, how do you know George? And I said, I'm in the same small group in my church with him. And she said, what church? I said, Highland Baptist. And then she said, I once attended there, but I left. I didn't pursue that statement. Then she said, what's your name? Now, I usually just give my first name when I answer that question, but for some, at that point, unknown reason, I said Shirley Knight. She looked absolutely shocked. Then she said, I am Sharon Phillips, the daughter of David and Jean Phillips. Now, it was my turn to be shocked because I knew her parents well. David and Jean Phillips were missionaries in Bolivia at the same time that my husband Ken and I were missionaries in India. And we had gone because God called us to those countries and Canadian Baptist Ministries had sent us. Sharon got up to usher folk in at that point. And I called out to her as she left, "Why don't you come back and visit Highland Baptist Church again sometime?" 2 weeks later, after a Sunday morning service, Jack Dopp came to the end of the row where I sat and said, "Shirley, there are people here who want to speak with you." And there they were, Sharon, her brother from Ottawa, and her mother, Jean. Sharon's first words were, "This is a miracle. 1 week after I met you, I received a phone call from the nursing home in Midland where my mother was. They had obtained a room for her in a care facility here in Waterloo near me, and they requested me to come and get Mother and bring her here. I knew that my mother would wish to be connected to a Baptist church, and now I could meet Mother to meet you, bring Mother to meet you at Highland Baptist." Jean and Sharon became part of our church family. Jean suffered from Alzheimer's and died. Her funeral was here in our church. Sharon, grateful for the welcome and the care that her mother received from Highland folk and that she has received, has remained with us. And she is now a most fitting member of the mission and outreach team. You asked me to tell a story of Jesus in my life. Well, this is one of them, where in the ordinary events of my life, I experienced the presence and activity of Jesus. Amazing, the foreknowledge and the pre-planning of a loving Creator God. We just do not always recognize his activity in us in all the finer details. Don't you know that the very hairs of your head are numbered? Jesus said that. He has a wonderful way of speaking truth in simple, unforgettable words.
And finally, Eva is going to share a poem that she wrote that is so relevant for the times we are in, and such a wonderful way to wrap up a conversation around the presence of God active in our lives.
Every day we hear of thousands more cases. Injustice kills another, and the planet still warms by a fraction of a degree. And I grow restless. Now that the most vulnerable have become the most hidden, my heart breaks for friends who are turning invisible. The silent boy, the addict, the tormented, the abused, but you see them. What will the future bring? My plans, they've crumbled. Lord, you know suffering. You've walked here, humbled. I know you are here in our kitchens and hospitals, in our phone calls and sleepless nights. You've met us in the dark, in the dirt. You're working through people who are still feeding the hungry and keeping others from becoming invisible. I know you are. But inside, I feel numb to your presence. I'm used to knowing you, God, through people, giving, connecting, laughing, meeting, and being needed. So I go to the trees to be filled once again. The sounds of the forest invade the selfish knot inside my head. They tell me to have patience. I'm surrounded by trees now, and I look up to notice that even on a gray day there is light in their veins as they reach, always faithful to the sky that sustains. Living water, holy light, fill me with what I need. And take these worries, for my future is in the hands that formed these branches, and the one who created towering pines and swaying cedars is the same one writing the story that is my life.